Hi guys, welcome to this multi-part series on how to grow your own coriander or cilantro. Now this is part 2 of the video where I'm going to cover seedling protection and also give you an update on the batch that we sowed in part 1. In case you're new here and you missed part 1, then I'll include a link to that video in the description below. In part 1 we covered how to speed up germination, and I also showed you step by step how to sow those seeds. Okay, so first let's talk about seedling protection. Now, if I just take my camera a bit further away, you'll be able to see that I've got my pot on a stand. And the reason that I haven't put my pot straight on the ground is because I want to give my pot some, ventilation. I want to, give it some space so that every time I water my pot, it has space for the water to just drain away. So I'm using a pot that has drainage holes, but if I don't use a kind of a pot stand, it basically means that the water just sits there and accumulates underneath that pot. Now you can also see that the cilantro seedlings, their stems are extremely tender, and you can see this poor little thing is also kind of bent over. So because the stems, because they're so tender, okay, you need to make sure that when they are this young, you look after them, and you look after them very well. Okay, so my cilantro pot sits on my porch right now, which is not enclosed, but it is undercover. Okay, so that way I can protect it from strong wind gusts. And my garden does get very strong wind gusts, sometimes like 110 kilometers an hour. So I don't want my seedlings, getting all crushed up in that wind. So I've kept it quite close to my house. And that little veil kind of thing that you can see in the background, that is the bed netting that I've had on my pot. I've just taken it out now so I can show you these seedlings. Now if I put the bed netting back on, this is what it looks like. It basically is just, a thin little sleeve of bed netting that I'm using. And it's got, it's got like little holes there, which means it lets water through, it lets sunlight through, it lets oxygen through, but it won't let any beds through. Okay, so that way my seedlings have a real chance to mature and develop and not risk being eaten up by the beds. And the way I secure this bed net so that it doesn't kind of flap around in the wind is with these bulldog clips. So all I do is I just attach a bulldog clip like that onto the rim, and I go around the entire circumference of the pot and just clad it up that way. You can also use anchor pegs. You could also use I don't know, like little wooden sticks or something like that. I had bulldog clips handy, so I've used that. Now, before I go on and completely seal my pot again with the bed netting, I'm just going to show you how I fix this little seedling that is basically falling over. And the way I'm going to fix it is with the help of, this is a bread clip, and that's what I'm going to use to get this little seedling to stand upright. And here's a little close-up of what it looks like. So as you can see, it doesn't hurt the seedling. It is small enough, but it does help keep the seedling upright. Okay, well, now I'm going to show you now what the pot looks like after I've fully covered it with the bed netting. So as you can see there, my little bed netting and the pot is now complete. You can see that I have secured it with bulldog clips at regular intervals. As I said, you don't have to use bulldog clips, but I had that available, so that's what I used to put the bed netting down. And as you can see, the bed netting actually doesn't touch any of the foliage. Okay, so you need to kind of keep that in mind when you're putting bed netting down, especially on such young plants. I prefer not to touch the foliage just as yet. So I keep them well above the foliage. Now as the plants start growing, I'll probably just kind of, you know, put some little pegs in the pot itself and raise the bed netting. Then once they're mature, usually I find that, you know, no one wants to touch them except me once they're nice and mature. So birds leave them alone, but at such a young stage you do need to protect them. Okay, well, now let's move across to the other pot so I can show you how the batch that I sowed in part 1 is now doing. I did tell you in part 1 it does take about 2 to 3 weeks for the seeds to fully germinate, and that it's very close to coming up to the 3 weeks, but it's not quite there yet. But as you can see, and hopefully this camera can capture it, there is a small little green sprout, if you like, a little seedling that is just forcing its way up right now. Okay, so that's very exciting. To be very honest, I wasn't expecting this batch to really yield anything because I was using really old seeds. So I was using store-bought seeds, and plus they were like really old. So I wasn't expecting a lot, so this is very pleasing to see that growth is indeed still shooting up. So guys, there you have it. That is how you grow and protect your cilantro plants. Happy gardening!